Welcome back. We are now hearing just days after Arthur Hayes dumped hyperliquid crypto, and potentially we are at the end stages of the bull market. We'll get to that in just a minute. He's still saying that Bitcoin is the fastest horse as the US is plotting a $15 trillion imperial pivot. Meanwhile, if we look at the Bitcoin halving tracker, you can clearly see that Bitcoin and where we are days since the halving, which occurred in the beginning of 2024, we are now at the historical tops from the previous two cycles. And there's people saying we're not going to have a bear market again. We are not at the top of the market. But what we're going to go over in today's video is the data and the information and the dates that prove that we are potentially already at the top and potentially even past the top of the market. And one of those things are announcements of announcements of announcements, and also announcements that turn out to be nothing burgers like this one. Dennis Porter, who is the founder of Satoshi Action Fund, basically he goes and basically lobbies Congress to pass pro-crypto rules and also strategic Bitcoin reserves. Well, in the middle of September, Dennis Porter kind of teed up an announcement saying that an official announcement is coming. You're not bullish enough. Do not miss this space. And also saying massive political news is coming for Bitcoin Tuesday that will reshape the trajectory of Bitcoin politics. This will be a defining moment. And meanwhile, the entire crypto ecosystem was waiting and watching what is going to be this big major announcement. Are we going to have another strategic Bitcoin reserve, a law getting passed? No. It was just an endorsement from Dennis Porter of somebody who's running for California who's going to be a pro-Bitcoin candidate. So what? We have pro-Bitcoin candidates all over the place. And there were, thousands of people tuning into this spaces just to hear about somebody launching a campaign to run for governor. And while that is exciting, right? Is it really that exciting to have another pro-crypto candidate? Not really. And this is not going to necessarily change the trajectory of Bitcoin politics or the Bitcoin price or the Bitcoin cycle. And so when I saw this and heard this just gave me the more data to prove that we are at the point in the cycle where everybody's just looking for something, right? Because there's really not that much going on. We already have the strategic Bitcoin reserve. We already have these Bitcoin treasury companies. They've already been buying billions and billions of dollars. BlackRock has already bought billions. We have a pro SEC, pro CFTC, or I should say pro crypto SEC and pro crypto CFTC. And like all of these things already occurred. So these were the exciting defining moments for the crypto space. And this is why we've seen such massive moves in the Bitcoin price this cycle. Now, that doesn't mean that your buy price isn't $100,000, right? We're seeing a lot of these Bitcoin treasury companies where their buy prices are over $110,000. That's their dollar cost average, which is literal all-time record highs and cycle highs. And so everybody's looking for something to what is going to be bullish? Oh, the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates. Well, they did. And what did the price of Bitcoin do? Goes down, as we predicted right here on the Cryptoviser channel. And while we're talking about that, make sure you guys are subscribed. This is the Cryptoviser podcast. We talk about everything crypto, blockchain, and investing every single day of the year since 2018. So make sure you guys are subscribed. Sometimes we do deep dives into individual cryptos or stocks or topics. And sometimes we talk about the macro, zoomed out overall picture of the economy, the global economy, and how crypto ties into that, which is what we're doing in today's video. And so I don't want to say that there's no more gains left in the market. I just think that there has to be more downside before there's more upside. And that brings us to this. The White House is eyeing year-end finish line for sweeping crypto market structure bill. And this is basically the same thing that we're hearing from Dennis Porter's announcement of an announcement of an announcement that basically was just a nothing announcement. We've been hearing this for years, that we're going to have crypto market clarity. They were going to pass the bill last year. They were going to pass it the year before that. They were going to pass it at the end of the year. Then they were going to pass it early in the beginning of the year. And we still don't have it, right? And at the end of the day, this kind of thing is so priced in that even if it does occur, then what, right? So they have a crypto market structure bill, right? Meanwhile, Coinbase, all of these crypto exchanges that were complaining about the regulations and being sued by all of these regulators, all of that has been stopped. So effectively, a crypto market structure bill will just be kind of putting it in writing and defining it there. That way, there's actual clarity, regardless of who the administration is and who the SEC chairman is. But this is not really that exciting of news. But people are, again, they're looking for anything to kind of go within their thesis that we're not at the end of the bull market, we're just at the beginning. But are we? Well, Arthur Hayes, you guys know, just the other day, he dumped his hyper liquidation cryptocurrency. And, he's still saying that Bitcoin is the fastest horse. He's doubling down on Bitcoin, labeling it the fastest horse as the US pivots to save the Pax Americana. I don't even know what that means. In a new essay, he argues that the U.S. Treasury Secretary plans to reindustrialize the country. This will unleash trillions of dollars in new credit, stoking inflation, of course, which would launch Bitcoin far above the $115,000 price. He said, "Do not doubt that the Trump team will use all the tricks in the book to print money this transformation of America requires." And again, this is not new. Right? The US has been printing money forever, and they're going to continue to do it. And it has to be ever increasing. That's how we get through it. And, whether the 2% inflation rate is right or not, I don't know. But at the end of the day, they're going to print money, right? And so them printing money is going to increase all the other asset prices because the dollar is weakening. So the value of those appreciating assets go higher, as we've seen in 2021 during the inflationary period then. And so, but these things take time. And I think this is all setting up. Everything moving forward from here is really setting us up for the next cycle. But you have to understand that we are going to go through a corrective or bear market phase, and that will bring prices down. That will bring the sentiment and and potentially bring down some of these companies that are investing very, very heavily in crypto. We also have Jock Maulers, right? And again, this stuff doesn't happen in the bear markets. Right before I was recording this, I was watching one of the financial news stations. And again, they had Mike Novogratz on for almost an hour. He wasn't on earlier in the year. He wasn't on in the bear market. He's only on at the end stages of the cycle. Jack Maulers, he's been telling us that they're going to be going public with the 21 company, which is one of these Bitcoin treasury companies. All the other companies went public already. Why hasn't 21? Meanwhile, he's going out on TV and saying that Bitcoin can go up 100 to 200 times from here. And people will cheer this on. And I'm not saying it's not going to happen. But what's the time frame, right? I think this is going to be decades before we get to 100 or 200 times. I mean, currently we're at $100,000. So let's do the math on that, right? $100,000 Bitcoin, and we times that by 100. That's a $10 million price. Now, this is possible, but is it possible in the next year? Highly unlikely. And again, a lot of that is based on the data that these companies have been buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin, while others have been offloading literally billions of dollars of Bitcoin. And a lot of these are insiders. A lot of these are early investors. They're taking the liquidity from the market because the market is giving them liquidity, right? It's like if you go, like if you're going to buy something and the store doesn't have the product that you're looking for, why would you go to the store and try to buy it, right? But when the store has it, you're going to go and buy it while they have it, especially if it's in high demand. And it's the same thing from a selling perspective. If somebody comes to you and says, listen, I'm going to buy your house for triple the amount that you paid right now, and you just paid, let's say you paid $400,000 last year for the home. And now somebody comes around and says, I'm going to give you $1.2 million for the home. Are you going to take it? Or are you going to say, no, I just bought it. I really like this home. No, you're probably going to take the money, right? Same thing in the Bitcoin and crypto space. And so this user, Ignis DeFi, and I don't know whether they're being satirical with this tweet, but I don't think it is. He said, if you didn't get rich from crypto already, you are not going to. You're not early. You're very late to a mature collapsing Ponzi, and regulations are coming. You can still make money in the long-term rise of Bitcoin, adopted layer 1 and layer 2 platform tokens, but you'll not be turning $500 into millions. And this is what everybody's chasing, right? They're chasing the first cycle. They're chasing the second cycle, and potentially even chasing the third cycle. But what have we seen here? You can see this on the scaled up version. This is Bitcoin price after the halvings. It's been diminishing returns every single cycle because there's more players, there's more people who are in earlier than you, and they're going to take those profits when they come. And so the next cycle, you're going to have more companies, more people, more individuals trying to get into Bitcoin, chasing the gains that we saw this cycle, right? They may not be as good as the previous cycle, and they may not even be at the same amount of gains as we're seeing in this cycle now, but they're going to be chasing it, whether it happens or not. And that's going to go on forever. But there's a lot of money to be made, sometimes not even in crypto. I mean, we're talking about AI stocks, and AI stocks are soaring, right? It's not just AI stocks, it's also the companies that have pivoted to AI, like Iris Energy. You can see here on the 6-month chart, it went from $5 to $40. That's an 800% increase in just the last 6 or so months, right? A 700% increase, actually. And so there, I mean, technically performed better than most altcoins. But people are saying, no, Cryptoviser, alt season hasn't started yet. And I said, but what makes you think that we are guaranteed alt season? There's nothing to guarantee it. We're also hearing the same thing about gaming cryptos from the previous cycle. None of these have performed. None of them. I mean, I was just looking at the BAT token, basic attention token, right? People have been chasing the gains since 2017. And it's been basically flat to down since 2017. Let's pull up a basic attention token. And again, I'm not making these videos to be, a fudder or a bear, a major bear, but we do definitely need to understand how this market is working. I mean, look at these numbers: $1.40 and $1.50 in the previous cycle. I mean, we're not even close to that. We've been downtrending, and some people could even say that we're still in the bear market for many of these altcoins. But are we going to come out of that? Maybe, maybe not. But we're not early, right? BlackRock is already buying. Wall Street is already buying. Government's already buying. So you're not early. People keep saying, "Oh, you're still early. We're still early. We're still early." It's the same thing like, "Oh, I got a major announcement. It's going to change the landscape of crypto and politics." And it's just announcing somebody's running for governor. That's the point of the cycle that we're in. What would you call that? The beginning of the cycle? Meanwhile, these companies are raising millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. Crypto startup Zero Hash raised $104 million from Morgan Stanley, SoFi, Apollo, and others. And this is an infrastructure crypto provider called Zero Hash. And the firm, the round was led by Interactive Brokers. Zero Hash provides banks and fintech firms with the ability to offer blockchain-based products in 3 major areas: crypto trading, stablecoins, and tokenization. And so think about that, right? In previous cycles, there was no startups that were raising money to this degree. There were no strategic Bitcoin reserves and stuff like that. So all the buying was real individuals buying the market. Now you have corporations buying infrastructure, buying into newer coins, right? That can do a lot more than just promise, right? We have a lot of cryptos that are legacy coins that are promising, "Oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this." Meanwhile, you have new coins like Hyperliquid or like Aster or like Sui, and they just come out of the gate running, and they're doing all the things that these other legacy coins are promising they're going to get to in the future at some point, hopefully. But these newer coins can just do it. That's why you see Sui and Hyper and Aster doing so well in the markets, right? These are the new altcoin season. The legacy coins from previous cycles that have been promising the same bullshit for years have, for the most part, haven't really delivered, and haven't delivered at the rate that they should. And even the ones that do deliver, like Internet Computer, this is underperforming almost every crypto and almost every single crypto or AI related stock as well. And it's the only crypto with on-chain artificial intelligence compute capabilities. And it's down 50% year to date, more than 50% year to date. And just in September, it was down another 20%. And so I believe that there's real fundamental value in this ecosystem. But apparently the rest of the crypto market doesn't believe that either. It doesn't believe that, what I'm saying. And that's frustrating, right? Because we look at fundamentals on this channel, not pumpamentals. In many ways, Iris Energy, Cypher Mining, and some of these other stocks that did pivot to AI, they're not even, they don't even have as much power or energy pipeline, as we're seeing with Bitfarms. Meanwhile, these are 8 or 10xing, and Bitfarms is still under like a $2 billion valuation. And so we're still in the pumpamental phase, and is everybody's kind of readjusting and trying to focus and raise money and do all of this. Gemini, also the crypto exchange, they just IPO'd. Look at their stock; it's down 20% since they IPO'd. And you guys have to understand, like the what we're technically seeing, in my view, is the value extraction. And the value extraction is happening with Wall Street as well. It's happening in crypto with the Bitcoin treasury companies buying, and the investors, whoever they are, right, around the world, they're taking that liquidity out. They're taking the money from those companies. Meanwhile, back to Internet Computer for a quick second. And by the way, don't forget to give this video a free thumbs up, and also hit that subscribe button. That way you never miss a new video. I'm actually going to have a specific video on Internet Computer price activity. It's going to be called something like, is it time to dump Internet Computer, or something like that? Because what we're seeing here is humpback whales holding ICP is rising during the market sell-off. And while a lot of people would say, oh, that's great, the whales are accumulating, it goes into what my thesis has been, that the whales are accumulating what the holders are dumping. Because at the same time as we're seeing whale wallets increasing, the ICP holder count is plunging amid panic selling. And so if we, again, go back to the Internet Computer price right here, it's down just in the 1 month, just in September alone, it's down 16%. I mean, this is really, really poor performance. And on the 1 year, it's down 50%. I mean, how much lower are we going to go? And I don't know the answer to this question. And I don't know why this is not going up. But there's a lot of other cryptos out here besides Internet Computer that I believe do have the fundamentals. But meanwhile, they're not performing, and we're seeing, Binance coin going over $1,000 price. Solana continuing to hover around the all-time record highs. Hyperliquid continuing to reach new highs. SWI continuing to maintain its above $3 range, which is more than 10x where it was just about a year ago as well. And so things don't make sense in the market. And typically, from my experience and from my analysis, this is during a market rotation, right, where we're ending the bull run and we're entering the bear run or the bear market, right? But this happens over a period of time. I believe it's going to be around 6 months to a year of this rotation, right, of downward trend in many of these assets. And so there is there's necessarily no floor. But why is everybody so bullish? Well, everybody's bullish because they still hold the coins, and there will probably be pumps throughout this, but how big will the pumps be? I don't know. I mean, we're still seeing MicroStrategy maintaining a 1.5 MNAV and a very high valuation of a price. Even though the Bitcoin price is coming down, MicroStrategy is hovering around the same valuation. Now, is this going to last? I don't know. I personally believe that we're going to see this MNAV compressing pretty hard. And that means a collapse. It's like a puff of air under this $300 price. I think that at a minimum, we're going to see the price dropping by about a third, just based on the MNAV alone. But if the price of Bitcoin also continues to go down, we'll probably see that occur as well. But maybe not. I mean, in the previous cycle, we saw FTX was able to hold on until every other basic borrowing and lending scheme collapsed. And so MicroStrategy could hold on to these levels because it is this, I would say, the safest out of all of the Bitcoin treasury companies. Because as we've covered, a lot of these other Bitcoin treasury companies like Nakamoto, they purchased at all-time record highs. And their early investors now have their shares unlocked. And so whether they're selling on the market or not, they are selling. And I'm about to show you proof that they are selling. But the market is also pricing in more sales. And so now we're at a lower price than we were before they started accumulating Bitcoin to begin with. How does that work? Think about that. The company had a higher stock valuation before they started buying the Bitcoin. And so in my view, as I've said on many of my videos, I think that these Bitcoin treasury companies, they're pricing in a massive drop in Bitcoin, right? Because if like an early investor and a Bitcoin maximalist wanted to offload some of their Bitcoin and get some cash, but also have the potential upside, they would invest in these Bitcoin treasury companies to sell them the Bitcoin and take shares from the company. And that's literally what they're doing. The maximalists, who are these early investors in Nakamoto, they they're the ones who are saying never sell your Bitcoin. And they're literally selling their Bitcoin to get shares of the company. And then what have they been doing? Selling shares of the company. So they want you to think that you should never sell your Bitcoin, but they're literally selling their Bitcoin. That's the part of the cycle that we're at. David Bailey, who's the CEO and founder of Nakamoto, the treasury company, not Nakamoto from the beginning, he said, in a typical mid-cap pipe, which is these early investors, right? It's basically they give money to get equity in the company. 50 to 70% of the shares are liquidated within the first 2 weeks. He said, I've been monitoring pipe progress every morning, and I think this jives almost through it. So he's confirming that people are selling, that their early investors are selling. He's confirming that. Why would they be selling if they just got into Nakamoto just a few months ago? Because remember, Nakamoto made the announcement, it looks like in May and June, that they were going to be buying Bitcoin, and they've been buying Bitcoin literally at the all-time record highs. That's their buy price, 115,000, something like that. And now they're early investors, and there are a lot of Bitcoin maximalists there. They're all selling. So they sold their Bitcoin and they're selling their shares in the Bitcoin treasury companies. And maybe they're selling to shore up money to then go buy Bitcoin if Bitcoin drops, or to buy this stock at lower prices. I don't know what they're doing. But what I do know is that they're selling. So they're selling. The billionaires are selling. Wall Street's buying it. And people are like, oh, but Wall Street keeps buying. BlackRock is buying. It's like, no. BlackRock bought. And I continue to see that. I even see YouTubers and influencers keep saying, you are not bullish enough. You are not bullish enough. BlackRock is buying. It's like, no, they bought. And all the movements that you see in and out of the ETFs right now, it's just trading. They're trading the market. They're trading the volatility. And it's not the Bitcoin companies alone. It's the Ethereum companies as well. Just a few days ago, I did a video where I showed you in September, the only company that really bought Bitcoin was BitMine Immersion Technologies, Tom Lee's company. All the other the Ethereum strategy companies, none of them really bought anything. And so let's look at these Ethereum strategy companies. SBET is SharpLink, right? Consensus, Joe Lubin, his company. Look, pump, dump, and we're basically $17 or $3 billion valuation, right? Now, this is still higher than it was before the announcement, but massive reduction from this top here, 80%. And remember what I say, like, people are expecting Bitcoin to go to $200,000 or $300,000, and it may. It definitely may. I'm not saying it's not going to. But typically these pico tops of the market, these are one wick to the upside, right? One candle on the chart to the upside. And you can see that very clearly here with SharpLink. People are going to be chasing this $80 price for SharpLink for years. And we may never hit that $80 again. Right? Because this $80 uptrend was just a pump based on the announcement that they were becoming an Ethereum strategy company. If we look at BitMine Immersion Technologies, this is Tom Lee's company, same exact situation, pump and then dump. And everybody is chasing this $135 price. How do I know this? Well, now we're hearing BitMine has 2 new major updates. One, the company now holds 2.4 million Ethereum priced at $4,497 per ETH. That's how much they paid per Ethereum, right? Which is literally the top of the market, because the all-time record high right now is about $4,800 or $5,000. We're already down from there. We're already down when I'm recording this video. Now, that doesn't mean we're not going back higher, right? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying look at where we are, okay? So we're already down from that. They reached 2% of the 5% goal they're aiming for, I guess 2% of the overall supply. BitMine also announced a securities purchase agreement to sell 5.2 million shares of their stock at $70 per share which is a 14% premium to where the price is in the coin right now, and warrants to purchase up to 10.4 million shares at 87.50 each, expecting to raise an additional $365 million from the stock and potentially up to $1.28 billion, including those warrant exercises. Tom Lee said, "In our view, the 14% premium reflects not only strong institutional investor interest in the BitMine story, but it's also confidence in our execution as a company." Tom Lee continued, saying, "Institutional investors have told us that BitMine remains one of the only large cap US stocks to give investors direct exposure to Ethereum by selling shares at $70 a share compared to the $61 closing price when I guess they made the deal. This is materially accretive to existing shareholders as the primary use of the proceeds is to add Ethereum to the holdings." So I want you guys to think about this. People are overpaying for the stock right now to overpay for the Ethereum right now. And now people are going to say, but Cryptoviser, there's all this buying, so the Ethereum price is going to go up. But it's not, right? The reason that Bitcoin went up as much as it did right now, because we have so many companies buying the Bitcoin, right? If it was just MicroStrategy, we probably wouldn't see these prices that we've seen. But it's all the companies, it's all the ETFs, it's all the treasury companies. Ethereum is getting there, but it's not fully there yet. They don't have the volume, they don't have the inflows, they don't have the interest, although it's getting there. And so if we are ending the bull cycle, whether now or maybe we'll go up to $8,000 and then we'll start a bear market, right? Their buy price for Ethereum is still very high, right? It's at, right now, all-time record highs. And they're selling shares at basically higher levels than we've been since that pump and then dump when they first made the announcement. And so this proves that Wall Street investors are, and probably retail as well, they're all chasing these highs. And if you're chasing a high, right, most of the time you're not going to get it, right? So, and I mean, at least right now, like I do think that in a few years this could potentially occur, but maybe not, right? Because these companies are trading. I mean, Ethereum treasury companies at least have some kind of revenue through staking and stuff like DeFi and stuff like that. The Bitcoin treasury companies, they have nothing. It's just holding Bitcoin, and that's not an investment thesis or strategy. And by the way, like investing in BitMine is not the answer. In my view, if you really want exposure to Ethereum or Bitcoin, you buy the ETF because there's no premium there. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at in the cycle. Anyway, this user, Crossroads, said, "BitMine raised some cash at a fantastic premium. Buyers are happy to pay for shares above the MNAV on a consistent basis." Who are these buyers? Because think about it. Like if you're a regular investor and you want to make money, why would you overpay? Like why would you overpay? If you're like a house flipper, right? And you see a home that's over the value that it should be, you're not going to go and say, "Oh, I'm going to go buy that house. I'm going to flip it and then I'm going to sell it for a lower price." That doesn't make any sense. This is not investing. And remember what I always say, like Wall Street, they're playing a different game than the everyday person, right? They're playing for the longer term. And a lot of these companies, they have diversified portfolios. So they may be putting hundreds of millions of dollars in, but that's a small percentage of their overall portfolio or overall exposure to the market. He says institutions are happy to pay a 14% premium over the share price. We'll see how long that lasts. He says the ability to easily raise funds outside of traditional channels and maintaining cash piles for flexibility. Now, I do agree with this last point, right? Because I do think that these companies should hold some cash. So if the prices do drop, they can then go and buy. But I don't know if that's actually what's going to happen. Now, Jim Chanos says, "Of course, BitMine raised this cash at a big discount, as their warrants have a large implied value themselves, which is why their stock is down on the announcement." And it is. I mean, if you look at the 1 month chart, they made the announcement and then boom, it went down 10%. Now, is it going to recover? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, the Ethereum is already down from what their buy price is. So the stock is going to probably eventually look like Nakamoto if the Ethereum price doesn't recover. Whether it does or doesn't, I don't know. But again, where are we in the cycle? And that brings us to Solana treasuries. Helios stock dives after their first treasury buy for $168 million in Solana. Okay, this medical, and again, keep in mind all of these medical companies that are merging or switching to Bitcoin Treasury, Ethereum Treasury, and now Solana Treasury. This is a medical device firm. Their stock has fallen by double digits after they announced the acquisition of Solana for its new Solana Treasury, purchasing about 760,000 Solana, worth about $168 million. They maintain an extra $335 million in cash, which will ultimately be used to bolster their treasury. And so you tell me, like, is this the part of the cycle where we are in euphoria? A lot of people are like, Cryptoviser, we're not in euphoria. Guys, they're buying Solana at all-time record highs. They're a medical company that's now just raising money to buy Solana at all-time record highs, okay? And that tells me, number one, these medical companies, a lot of them probably popped up during the pandemic. I mean, I'm not totally sure yet. You can see that this company has been around for quite a while now. But, after the pandemic, right, a lot of these companies didn't do that well for whatever reason. Kindly MD was Nakamoto. And there were a few other treasury companies that used to be medical companies and now they're treasury companies. But look at this. I mean, I've never seen a chart that says 100% to the downside, right? But this was at $23 million. I'm guessing this was stock split multiple times, or reverse split, I should say. But yeah, I mean, even if we just pull up the 5-year chart, we're still down 100%. Let's pull up the 1-year chart, down 97%. So this company is down 97%, and they chose to buy Solana at all-time record highs to save the company. And so if we do flip into a bear market, at some point, whether it's now or whether it's in 6 months or whether it's in a year, right? But if we flip into a bear market and Solana drops to maybe $100, which is about half the price it is today, what do you think is going to happen to the stock, right? And I don't think people are counting in this risk that they're trying to save their company. And if it fails, the company would have failed either way, right? But if you're holding Solana and they fail and they have to liquidate in a bear market, the prices are going much lower. This is why we saw Solana go down to $8 in the previous bear market, because FTX was the risk factor. And when FTX collapsed, they were so connected to Solana and had so much Solana that the faith was lost almost instantly. And it was a 98% drop in the price. Now it recovered, but there's a possibility that it wouldn't have recovered, right? So all these companies buying the top of the market, all these companies pumping money in, and their stock prices are still going down. And so in my view, the market top has already been hit. And this is further proven by the Bitcoin halving chart. This is further proven by all the data that we just showed you in today's video. And again, once the people are starting to question, is MicroStrategy a good investment? Should I still be holding MicroStrategy? Once they start losing the confidence, and I don't know when it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be because of an event. I don't know if it's going to be because they keep selling shares on the open market to then go fund the Bitcoin purchases, or it's going to be the Bitcoin price falling, or a combination of all these things, or maybe something that we didn't even discuss. But when that happens, everything, remember, you want to get out of the market before everybody does, because when everybody knows, it's very hard to exit, because the market will just keep cratering and cratering and cratering and cratering. And then you have liquidations, and then market sales for those liquidations, and then more price downward movement, and then more liquidations, and then more forced selling, and then more. And it becomes where everything will be affected. But there's people in the euphoria right now saying, no, crypto, there's no way that can happen. No way. And I'm like, they're all buying the top of the market. Are you buying right now? As somebody in the comments said the other day, oh, I'm still bullish. And I'm like, well, are you buying the top of the market? They're like, no. I'm like, so you're not bullish. If you're that bullish that we're going to $500,000, $1 million, you would be emptying your bank account, selling your car, like Michael Saylor said, remortgage your house, sell your home, sell your car to buy Bitcoin. You would be doing that if you were that bullish. And so ask yourself, are you buying at these prices? Because if the answer is no, you're not really that bullish. Because if you were, and it was that much of a sure thing, you would be buying. And most of the market is not buying. You know why? Because they want to sell. But they can't sell because the price is not moving in the direction that they want it to be, because we're at the end of the cycle, because the liquidity is drying up, because the liquidity is being sucked by Wall Street. That's what's going on. And so I've been kind of warning about this for a few months on the channel. I think a lot of people who watch my videos on a regular basis, and if you don't, make sure you guys click that subscribe button. It's completely free to do. And if you do want to help support the channel, click the subscribe plus or join button down below here on YouTube. That way you can learn more about becoming a channel member, or you can leave a super chat or super thanks down below in the comments, but also give the video a thumbs up. It's free to do. But the bottom line is, right, everybody, like the retail investors, I remember a few months ago, I told you guys on Dave Ramsey's show, somebody was like $100,000 in debt. And she's like, you know, I have Bitcoin and crypto, but what people are saying is that we're going to have another big pump. So I'm waiting for the big pump so that I can sell, so that I can pay this off. And he's like, no, sell it now and pay it off. She's like, yeah, but what if the price goes higher? And he said, sell it now and pay it off. She's like, yeah, but everybody, you know, is saying that the market is going to go up towards the end of the year. And I'm like, if everybody is anticipating that, it will not happen, right? Because people are going to front run. Like if you're expecting 200,000, people are going to sell at 180, right? Because that's what the market does. And so people are not trading the market in front of them. They're trading the market that they want. They want to be bullish, but they're not bullish. But they think they're bullish, but they won't buy. Why are you not buying the top of the market then? Why are you not buying at $112,000? If you're that bullish, buy. But Cryptoviser, we may have a dip. Well, then you're not bullish. But Cryptoviser, I don't have any more money. Well, then go work another job. Because if you were that bullish and you were that confident, you would keep buying. But most individuals are not. And it's Wall Street buying. And you're not taking that liquidity as an exit. But guess who is? The early investors and the smart money. That's what they're doing. And that's how we've seen all of these private sales of Bitcoin and Ethereum occurring and barely move the price of the crypto. And so what do you think is going to happen as that continues to wane and drain? Because we're already seeing MicroStrategy's having a harder time buying. A lot of these other companies, like MicroStrategy is different than these other companies. They are buying the top of the market, but that's their dollar cost average. And so in a downtrending market, I mean, literally Nakamoto has the potential to go to zero. I mean, literal zero, because the price has already crashed 95% since they made the announcement of becoming a Bitcoin treasury company in 6 months. And the Bitcoin price hasn't even dropped. What's going to happen if the Bitcoin drops by 40% or 50%? This is going to be a 50-cent stock from $25 in a bull market. How does that work? How does that work? Now, I'm not saying that's not going to be a buy. That may be, but we're going to have to reassess. And we will do that as the market draws down. We will reassess whether these are going to be buys, because they may not even be around in the next cycle. They may be bought up by another company. They may be liquidated. They may go into bankruptcy. We don't know. And by the way, this all happened in the previous cycle. Look at the Bitcoin mining companies. Type in Core Scientific bankruptcy. They went from going bankrupt at the end of the last bull market to now being acquired by CoreWeave. So there's a lot of opportunity out there, but there's also going to be a lot of downside. I'll see you guys in the next video. Crypto on.